So I want to start doing something different with my channel. I want to do more philosophy related videos, and I think a really good introduction to philosophy is thought experiments, because they're really easy to understand, but they explain very complex abstract concepts. And in this first episode we have special guest Pudding. I might make this a regular thing to hold her and talk about philosophy. But anyway, here are my 3 favorite philosophical thought experiments. I'm going to start you off with an ethical thought experiment, and those are great because you can test your own moral intuitions even if you don't know much about philosophy. And the one that I want to talk about today is the trolley problem. The trolley problem is so famous, it's made its way into popular culture, it's become a meme. Imagine a scenario where there is a runaway trolley and it's heading towards a track with 5 people tied onto the track. You coincidentally is very close to a lever which could switch the tracks of the trolley, leading it to another track that has 1 person tied to it instead. So the question is, would you pull the lever?
Pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever!
If you would, you are probably a utilitarian, which is an ethical framework wherein the right action is the one that leads to the greatest happiness or utility for the greatest number of people. 5 lives is certainly greater than 1 life, so you might not even second think pulling the lever. However, many critics of utilitarianism thinks that a good moral theory shouldn't ever demand you in any situation to get your hands dirty and kill someone. Some people think that pulling a lever isn't necessarily killing someone because someone has to die in both scenarios. Some philosophers like Thompson thinks that there is a distinction between killing and letting die. For example, forget that there's a second track. Let's say there's a bridge on top of the track and there's a fat man who weighs so much he is capable of stopping the train if you push him. In that scenario where you need to push someone to their death instead of just pulling a lever, would you rethink your decision? Do you still think it's ethically okay to push him off the bridge? Now what if I tell you that fat man is a criminal, a child molester? In that case, the value of his life probably would be less than those who are innocent. What if I tell you this man is Donald Trump? Would that be just the easiest decision ever? If you said yes to all those questions, consider this. Forget about the trolley problem. Let's say you are a doctor, a surgeon, and you have 5 patients who are in desperate need for an organ transplant. 1 needs a lung, 1 needs a heart, 2 needs kidneys, and 1 needs a liver. Now you have a neighbor who's not really a nice person, doesn't really have any friends or family, kind of a loner, doesn't contribute to society, and he happens to be a perfect matching candidate for all those transplants. Would it then be okay to kidnap him against his will, extract his organs, effectively killing him, and use his organs for your patients? If you are a diehard utilitarian, you might still say yes. But for most people, this creates a problem for act-utilitarianism because this creates a world where you will have to live in constant fear of someone kidnapping you and extracting your organs. The second thought experiment I want to talk about is Descartes' evil genius thought experiment. René Descartes is an epistemological skeptic. He arguably is the reason the movie Matrix exists. In the Meditations, he wrote about how he started to doubt all of his sense perceptions because there aren't really good reasons for him to have all these assumptions about the way the world is without absolute certainty. And this is very apparent in your day-to-day life, like optical illusions, or sometimes you take some very bitter medicine, you drink a cup of water and the water actually tastes sweet to you, or lucid dreaming. And this happens to me a lot. I sometimes dream that I got up, got ready, and went to school, but in reality I was just dreaming and actually like half an hour late to class. These are all small doubts or local doubts. What if none of your sense experiences reflect reality? Descartes doesn't actually think that this is the case, but he thinks there is a possibility that there is an evil genius who's deceiving us on all of our sense experiences. He's not actually suggesting that there is an evil genius, but there's no way to disprove this thesis, which means that it is a possibility. And he thinks that if we don't know something with absolute certainty and there's any room for doubt at all, then you don't know the thing. For example, how do I know that Pudding is real? I see her, I feel her, I have sense experiences of her unconditional love, but all the evidence that I'm going to use to support the existence of Pudding is just more sense experiences. There are several flavors of epistemological skepticism scenarios. For example, like I said already, The Matrix. The whole premise of The Matrix is that you can be living in a world with completely false sense experiences and still believe that you are right about the world, because there's no real way of verifying that you're not in the Matrix unless you are unplugged. There's a similar example in a Rick and Morty episode where Morty was wearing a helmet. He was hooked to a game in an arcade, and the game lets you live an entire life through another person. And as soon as the helmet is on, Morty has no memory of his past life as Morty, and he gets a job, he gets married, he has a kid, goes through his entire life, and only when he died did he realize that none of that was real. And there's a possibility that that could be happening to us, because I could be a brain in a vat having false sense experiences. If you're having an existential crisis right now, it's okay, because later in the meditations, René Descartes actually start to rebuild his theory of knowledge. He has an ontological argument. He also has a more famous argument as to why he exists, and it can be summed up by one of philosophy's most famous quotes, cogito ergo sum, or I think therefore I am. He doesn't know that his sense experiences are real, but he knows for a fact that he was having doubt about his sense experiences. Doubting is a form of thinking, and in order for something to think, it must exist necessarily, or existence is a precondition of thinking, which means that if he knows that he thinks at all, he must exist. I think, therefore I am. The last thought experiment I want to leave y'all with is Mary the neuroscientist. So Mary is this amazing neuroscientist. She knows all the physics and biology that has to do with color perception. She knows how the retina works. She knows how this information is sent to the brain. She knows exactly what wavelengths are necessary in order to elicit a perception of a certain color. She basically knows every physical fact there is to know about color perception. The irony is she has never seen color. She lives her entire life in black and white. One day she was presented with an apple with the color red. She sees red for the first time and actually has a mental experience of the redness of the apple. The question of this thought experiment is, did Mary learn anything new? She already knows all the physical facts that has to do with perceiving the color red. What Mary was essentially lacking before she saw color red for the first time is qualia. Qualia is a subjective mental state that is only accessible to you. So that leads to the wider debate of how important qualia is to our knowledge. Can color perception be reduced to wavelengths and other physical facts about color perception? Can the sensation of pain be reduced to something like C fibers firing? If you take the physicalist route and you do believe that Mary did not in fact learn anything new after seeing the color red, and that merely physicalist account is sufficient to explain all of your mental states, then there is very strong reason to believe that artificial intelligence can mimic the same personhood that we have. Because as long as the physics and biology of what it feels to be in pain or seeing color or being in love can be perfectly replicated into artificial intelligence, then it's not very controversial to think that a robot can be in pain or in love, which can be a good thing or a scary thing. But that's all I have for you today. Please like this video with your hand that may or may not be real, especially for this video because I really want to see how many people are interested in philosophy videos. Also let me know if you want pudding here for the next episode or what kind of philosophy topics you would like me to cover. Thank you so much for watching. Say bye. Bye.